All right, hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with Maddie B and Rick David. Going to kick it off with the mailbag today. I got one. I wasn't even sure if I was going to bring it in, but someone asked, oh, hold on, let me read it so I don't sound like an idiot. He said, what do you guys think of the Eagles not going to the White House? But I think that was before the news broke that I think they don't even have an invitation anymore. So I wasn't going to bring it in, but it was the biggest topic. And to be honest, I don't care. It's like it's an award, or a reward anyway, for winning. It's kind of like a photo op. Let's say the Steelers would have won. Would I watch them go to the White House? No. I've never watched any team go to the White House. All I care about is watching the game and bringing home the trophy. So that's all I'll say about it. Matt, what do you think?
It's such a political.
Yeah, and you can plead the fifth. You can plead the fifth. You don't have to say anything if you don't want. Because I surprise this on you guys. I never tell you what's in the mailbag. Just so that everyone knows. These aren't canned questions.
No, I am not. I'm not pleading the fifth, but I do think that it's funny how fast. I was thinking about this today. How polarizing Trump is. People hate him to death, but he makes them. He holds them accountable, and you don't want to go to the White House. Fine. People are using that as a justification for their cause and to hate on him. If that's what it takes to get stuff done, then so be it. You know, if boycotting visiting the president, but then you're going to continue with your nonprofits and different things, then it's making society better, and I say go for it. You know, if he has to be the bad guy, he has to be the bad guy, but they're going to over media it just because it's affecting President Trump's approval rating.
Rick, you have any thoughts on this?
Really don't care. I mean, if you want to go, go. If you don't, then just stay home. Who cares? I mean, it's stupid. It's a publicity stunt. We could all see through it. It's just for a way there. So I don't care. Do not care. And I know they're trying to make the Pittsburgh versus Philly thing, like Penguins went, Eagles didn't. Who cares? Who cares?
All right, let's move on to high tempo for the week. Matt, what do you got?
Well, schools are starting to let out for summer, so with that brings back that joyous time of summer workouts. So hopefully we're going to have a good turnout. Our program starts tomorrow. Hoping for a big turnout. We got a lot of stuff scheduled and just excited to get back into the groove of football again.
Nice. Rick, what do you got for high tempo this week?
Talking about schools out, this is a historical date. June 5th, 1985. 33 years ago, 3 kids skipped out of school and went to a Chicago Cubs game. It was Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So it was actually based upon this date in history. So the famous movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off was at Wrigley, June 5th, 1985. So
I had no idea where you're going with that.
I was going really a roundabout way, but yeah, that's.
Rick, I thought your high tempo was going to be a minor league player reached out with one of your bad songs and got to play in.
He did not, and I keep checking the hashtag and nothing. Nothing.
We'll have to push that out again.
I'll do it again. I'll take a video at one of the minor league ballparks on that, so next time.
Definitely. Matt, and speaking of that, for my high tempo, I'm surprised you didn't bring up the fact that Florida State softball is in the national championship game. They won the first one. You know, they have to win 2 more. They're playing right now. What's the score?
This is it, dog. They win and we're done. It's best of 3.
Oh, I know. I'm well aware. And I just add some extra tidbits there. Only 12 teams have ever won a national championship. Florida State would be the 13th. They'd be joining some elite company because, you know, Michigan has one. So,
well, yeah, when you've been playing for like a gazillion years.
Oh my gosh, did they just start a softball team? Florida State has some. They have some listed on their thing, like championships from 1961 or 67 or something like that. So they've been playing for a long time.
Michigan's claiming stuff from people that came over on the Mayflower.
Oh my God, Michigan was from 2005. I was in high school for that, I think. Somewhere around there. So join in the club, Matt. Get your team. And I'll say this I'll say this because some expansion talks heating up, which we're going to get into for Major League Baseball. But for college, Big 12 announced their revenues, and they're looking like they're going to be the third highest paying conference, which means ACC is going to be either last or close to last, depending on how bad the Pac-12 network bombed. But I'm saying, Florida State starts diversifying their athletics, bring them to the Big 10. That I'm going to have to... Go ahead.
Did you happen to see Jess Warren's dive and catch from last night?
No, I didn't.
This past weekend, I've watched more girls softball than I think I've ever watched in my life. Just because, number one, it was entertaining, and two, the Knowles were on, so why the hell not? But last night's game, Jess Warren, a third baseman, lays out. It's been all over ESPN, and she lays out, dives, scoops it up, throws to first, turns a huge double play, very big momentum shifter in the game last night. And that good vibes are carrying over into tonight's game, so hopefully they continue where they're at.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'll have to share that on our stuff. Follow us at Southbound Sports on Instagram and Facebook, and S-Bound Sports on Twitter. But it's crazy that Washington has one. They have a national championship in softball, which just seems odd, considering I think Michigan's the only team north of like the Mason-Dixon line that someone totally on the west, where it rains all the time, would be able to put together a competent softball team. So it's just crazy. But Florida State, I was surprised they didn't even play in the championship game. So this is the first go-around for everything. But looking like they're going to get it done.
Well, they had to step up because the men's team laid an egg.
I know. So did NC State, though. Because that was my original high tempo, was talking about how the ACC bombed. Because down here in Raleigh, everything was about how the ACC had 4 number 1 seeds. They had 4 at homes, and they choked. And then I think the record against the SEC, it was pitiful. Because Auburn won the regional here. I don't think an SEC team won the Florida State one. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it was looking pretty bad, how the ACC fared in baseball. So, very cool that Florida State's in it. Go ahead.
I got to give some props, though, to Samford's coach. Because the night before they played Florida State, he's at his media day. And he goes to the press conference, and nobody had any questions for him. So then after they upset the Knowles, he comes into his press conference like, "Oh, you guys got questions today? Where were you?" He sure as hell didn't have any last night. So I like giving it to the press. I thought it was pretty good, even if it was at the expense of the Knowles.
That's just funny. All right, let's move on. Let's go do the Steel City update. I'll save the worst for last. I guess it's all kind of bad. Penguins don't really have much. They're watching Ovechkin, and this will be one of the things I think we should bring in over the summer or right after the Stanley Cup. If Ovechkin wins, we need to do our Crosby-Ovechkin update. Because last I saw before the playoffs, Ovechkin has more points than him, and he'll finally have a cup. That's what it's looking like anyway. But we'll save that talk for later. Baseball, not looking good. Not looking good for the old Pirates there. Rick, you have anything to add on them? Why we knew they were going to come back down to earth. So it's not really that. It's just the fact that it's going to catch up with them. They're losing right now 4-0 to the Dodgers, I believe, if that's up to date.
Yep.
And going to be below 500 soon, I think. That's how we're trending. We were, 2-8 last week at the show, in the last 10. This week, you just can't buy a win. So, you have anything to add?
Yeah, it's been Trevor Williams has fallen off pitching. Talion is now coming back, but he was pretty much abysmal in the last 3 starts So last 3 out of 4 starts have been abysmal. Mercer's now hurt, so he got scratched too. We decided to pay $5 million. Rodriguez goes plays his shorts. He does strike out, and he is hitting 165, so congratulations to him. Polanco's hitting a 211 and with a strikeout tonight. I mean, it just makes no sense. And then the thing was, I was watching partly on Sunday's game when it was Waka that was throwing. He threw, a no-hitter into the 7th, and they pinch hit Colin Moran. And I'm like, why is Colin Moran sitting the bench? He's actually one of your guys that can hit the ball. But for some unknown reason, we decided to play David Freese out there, who can't hit anything anymore. And Colin Moran's at least hitting a 280. I mean, but it's just abysmal. Everybody's batting average is dropping. Meadows is looking like the bright spot I called a year ago that they should have brought up at this time. So, I mean, he's looking good. But outside of Meadows and Moran and, Cervelli's falling back to earth. He's only hitting a 274 now. And even Dickerson's even hitting a 316, so he's not doing any good. I mean, a lot of people are coming back to earth who are having good seasons. And Clint Hurdle's manager decisions are just awful right now.
Have they ever been good?
Not really, no. And that's what got him ran out in Colorado, if you remember. He had that one good year. They made the World Series, and I think that was the year that got bounced in 4. I think that was a sweep in 4. It was either 4 or 5. I can't remember.
I know it was a bad beatdown.
And then he was gone out of there. They couldn't stand him anymore. They were happy getting rid of him. And the bullpen's awful. Rivero, you can't leave in there because he just gets shelled.
The bullpen is going to be a problem whenever you don't spend. You have to spend money to have a decent bullpen. It's the same issue the A's always had whenever they were in the Moneyball era. They could get the starters. You can get the Barry Zitos and who else they have? Tim Hudson,
Mark
someone
Moore.
else. Yeah, but then once you get to the bullpen, it's complete shit. And so that's basically what happens. You got to cut costs somewhere. You can get a big ace to bring in seats once or twice a week, depending on what your schedule lines up as. But that's it. That's basically where the Pirates are at. Poor bullpen. Right now, this week they're 3-7 in the last 10. When they lose this one, they will be 500. On the downside, they're really not out of the wild card, but deep down, we know that they are out of it.
Yeah,
so.
And this is a Dodgers team which is beatable. Hill, Kershaw, Kohler, Ueris, Ruia, Maeda, all injured. They're all injured right now. I mean, this is a team that's not even having their top 5 rotation pitchers because they're all injured. And I mean, it's just they're playing Max Muncy at third, who was a cast-off from the A's, who was playing last year, I think, in Double-A ball. I mean, this is a team you got to beat, and you're getting beat down by them.
Yeah, I don't know.
Rick, I wanted to ask you, Rick, with the completely random, but with the MLB draft, how long does it take for players getting drafted to really crack the big leagues, like that are getting drafted in these rounds? Like the NFL, you're getting instant contributors. How long does it take someone getting drafted to contribute?
3-4 years. I think it took Bell 4, Meadows 4. I mean, you look at a guy like Brendan Rodgers. He was drafted 2 years ago. He's in Double-A. I mean, I think last year, there was only a couple guys that made it to the majors. Austin Hayes, I remember, but he only played like 5 or 6 games for the Orioles at the end of the year because they were so injured. But, I mean, it usually takes about 3, 4, 5 years to get up. So
it also depends on where they get drafted.
And if they're a college kid, too.
Yeah, because Trey Turner got drafted out of NC State, and I think he made it relatively quick up to the majors.
I think he was 2.5 years, if I remember correctly.
Yes, if you
he spent like 1 year with the Padres and maybe 1.5 years with the Nats.
If you play college ball, you have a better chance of getting caught up sooner just because of age, normally. Which reminds me, they who drafted the Oklahoma quarterback overall number 9? Did you guys see that?
9. That was Oakland. So the guy who's replacing Baker Mayfield, got drafted by Oakland. But here's the deal with his signing: he's going to sign, but you have to let him play out Oklahoma's football season. So he's not even going to play for Oakland this year. He'll play next year for them. So he's not even going to
Bo
go
Jackson
to a short
signing.
Yeah. So he's going to go to a short season. He's not doing short season this year. He's going to Oklahoma. So I think it's a crazy pick by Oakland.
Is he even a senior?
Crazy. I think he got drafted as a junior. which would mean he was what?
How's that going to work as far as the eligibility side? If you're signing with the A's, aren't you essentially giving up your amateur status?
Yeah, so
No,
but they're not going to sign him. What they did was they drafted his rights, kind of like I think the Yankees did it with Russell Wilson or something. That's why he can come play with them now. So he can't sign. If he's going to ever try to play, they own his rights. Now, as long as he doesn't sign, he can continue to play college ball. So he might, like, if he wants to play both years, he could test the NFL water, see that it doesn't work out, and then come back. Another case would have been Jeff Samardzija from Notre Dame. He got drafted by the Cubs. I think he played the season. People thought he was going to go to the NFL, but then he ended up just going right to Major League Baseball. I believe that's how that went. I could be wrong. I could have it reversed. They might have drafted him the summer after.
Yeah, I think he definitely went. Because I remember thinking that he was going to be a good player in the NFL, and he just went straight baseball.
Yeah, so you can get drafted. Baseball's a little bit different. They can draft you where I don't think the NFL retains your rights, because if you remember, like I brought up the Bo Jackson, and this might have changed, he got drafted by Tampa Bay, and he decided, screw you guys, I'm not going to sign. I'm going to go play baseball. Then the next draft year, Oakland, the Raiders, or L.A., I got tripped up because I didn't know where they were back in the 80s, but it was the Raiders. They drafted him again, even though he had been drafted the previous year. No one signed him. In baseball, it's not like that. Once you're drafted, I'm pretty sure they own your rights. So they took a gamble.
They own their rights to a certain day. I don't remember the day, but there's a day you have to sign by, and then you re-enter the draft again.
Well, I think it's a while, though, because they wouldn't waste an overall number 9 pick on a guy they don't know if he's even going to go.
I think it's like in October or November. I'll have to look
I think
that
it's
up.
much longer than that. I think you have to, if it's a college guy, I think that they would have to play out the rest of their year. Look that up and see, because I thought for sure that
I'm going to look it up.
That once you were drafted, he can play football until he's done, and they're just thinking that he's not going to make it in the NFL. So it's kind of like a gamble. Because if he was going to play and he had to sign by November, there's no way they would have drafted him overall number 9. Unless they're that dumb, like, I don't know. Maybe they didn't have the money and they were just trying to waste a pick. I don't know. But
I got to figure out the Garrett Cole date too, because Garrett Cole went down to the last day too, if you remember. So
yeah,
I just got to. I'll keep looking.
But it almost seems like as far as like the draft and stuff like that, it doesn't hurt you, because if you're looking 2 to 3 years out, you can still add your depth via free agency everywhere else. That realistically, you're not getting the kind of contributors day one that you do NHL, NFL, NBA type players. Like you're projecting guys 3-4 years out when you're drafting them. So I mean, I guess you can throw picks into the wind because you don't really know that far out what they're going to do or what they could be capable of doing.
Well, it's sort of like how the Marlins signed all those kids from the Latin American countries. Whenever you don't have to draft them. If you can get to them before they turn 18 or something, you can sign them ahead of time, and then they're not
16.
Whatever the age limit is. If you sign them before they're draft eligible, you own their rights for whoever. That's why they had that one year. They had like all those young guys, Ravon Hernandez and whoever, were like 18, 19 years old. They went ahead, had a complex. I forget where they were from, the Dominican or something. They had a complex there so they could sign the kids really young. And if they didn't pan out, who cares? Because they didn't need that much money to convince them to sign. So Pirates tried to do that over in India or wherever. Who did they sign those 2 other guys from? Somewhere in Asia, wasn't it?
It was India, and Singh was one, and Patel was the other.
Yeah, so Pirates tried to do that where they were like, okay, we can have a new pipeline here. We're not up against no one else. If we sign these guys before they get drafted, then we own the rights, and if they don't pan out, who cares? And that's another way to stockpile talent. But you have to kind of be able to identify it. So,
but here I got the date. It's July 13th. He has to sign his contract by. But it doesn't mean he has to play. So he could sign and still play football. So, I mean, But he already told the conference call to Oakland Raiders saying, I'm playing football this season. So I knew there was a date you had to sign by, but it's July 13th.
So does that mean he can sign for his rights and then not get paid to?
No, he'll actually sign. He'll sign and won't get paid.
Yeah, so he's basically just accepting the draft pick. Then that's probably their way around the NCAA. Because I knew there was a way they could go ahead and stay with the team or get locked in with the team.
Yeah.
I mean, because what if he doesn't sign? No one else, someone else might draft him later, but he gets guaranteed money with the first round pick, doesn't he?
It's slot value, so his was probably around the $5 or $6 million pick.
Yeah, so
he'll get that.
There's no reason why he wouldn't sign to save his rights, because now, no matter how football works out, he's guaranteed to make that whenever he shows up for camp. I'm sure he has to negotiate that, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were probably going to say, okay, well, you can play a year or two college football, but after that, you have to show up. And if you get injured, I would hope that they are going to put a clause in there that if he gets injured to protect the team, that they won't owe him any money, or at least a substantially less amount.
Yeah, so. And Oakland A's can pull a weird move in here and just say we're not going to sign you. If you want to go play football, you're playing football. They don't sign them on July 13th, and they get a pick next year in the top. So they had a 9 this year. So if they don't sign him, they get next year's 10 pick. If he doesn't sign, which is nice that way.
That'd be the most Moneyball thing.
So then you could possibly get 2 picks in the top 10 next year. So if you think next year's draft is going to be a loaded draft, you could do it that way and screw yourself this year, but help yourself next year. So it's worth an idea.
Is that where Sam Hinkie ended up?
Sam Hinkie?
The 76ers guy. He tanked all those draft picks so he could go ahead and save up for the future, Rick?
Yeah. That's a real dumb idea. Well, in baseball, it's a little bit different than basketball. Baseball, it's worst record down. Whereas in basketball, it's that stupid lottery. So you're screwing yourself in the lottery because you're playing a lottery. But in baseball, you're guaranteed.
That lottery's rigged, though, Rick. The frozen envelope.
Yeah, the one that got Patrick Ewing to New York.
Yeah, look that up. If you're listening to the show, you don't know what I'm talking about.
That's a true story.
I think there was a 30 for 30 on that, wasn't there? Something
I'm
like
not sure.
I don't know. All right, let's get to the depressing news. Steelers have placed offensive lineman Jared Hawkins and tight end Gerald Hawkins, and tight end Jake McGee on the injured reserve list. They got hurt last week during team activities. They're out for the entire 2018 season, both of them. So really hurting depth there, especially on the offensive line. We know that's been an issue keeping Ben Roethlisberger healthy every year, it seems. And you finally get to that point, and I don't know, what do you guys think?
I mean, it's going to stink for them, but the thing is, too, Mike Adams is still out there. If they want to go grab an old Steeler, he's out there, and they said he's in the best shape of his life. So, I mean, if you want to get a guy who already knows the schemes and everything and knows the system, Mike Adams is out there. So,
well, they did sign, I think they signed Bryce Harris and tight end, Bryce Harris for the offensive tackle and Ryan Mallek to the tight end position. So, they got some backfill there.
But, if there's a time of year that you can absorb an injury, it's right now. Before you get to camp, there's still a lot of free agent bodies and undrafted free agents that you can bring in and work out and try to figure out who you want on your roster. So I don't think that it hurts them. Hurts from a depth standpoint, but it doesn't hurt them as far as the games that matter.
Oh, I would think, and who it really hurts is Hawkins, because I would think he's done in the NFL. He's been with the Steelers for 3 years. He's going to miss now 2 entire seasons. He's only played 5 games. So you can't be young, and I know it sucks. It was like a camp injury. It's not even, they're not doing contact yet or anything. So it must have been a freak accident, or he's just injury prone. And whenever you're that young, I think he was a 4th round draft pick. and you're not showing up. There's no way. They already drafted another lineman this year, I believe. So, yeah, you're right, Matt. It's early, and if you want to lose someone, this is when you lose it, not after you start to mesh and figure out what your rotation is going to be if you're rotating or what your starting line's going to be. So, sucks for him. I hate when anyone gets injured, but I don't know what they're going to do with him. I think it was a shoulder injury? That's what he suffered his rookie year, was a shoulder injury. Here, I found this thing. But it doesn't say what he was on for this year. But definitely a negative overall for the Steelers. Kind of give us a break from the drama, but it's even worse news. So, anything else you guys want to add for the Steel City update before we move on?
No.
All right.
Yeah.
Next one, I definitely want to hear your opinion, Rick. Major League Baseball, they announced maybe it was last year in the fall that they're looking at expanding for the kind of the same reason the NHL does or did, is they have 30 teams. I think they have 30. Yeah.
32.
They don't have 32 yet. They only have 30, I think. It's 6 divisions of 5 teams, right?
Yeah, it would be.
Because they have that one used to have that one off-balanced thing, which was so dumb. Like, you can't get a bunch of owners together to make some sense. It took them how long to balance the divisions? So what makes sense for travel is 32 teams because it's divisible basically by 4 and by 2. So it's easier for scheduling. So that's why the NFL did it. That's why people were saying about how the NFL is going to add some teams. Most likely, they're just going to keep relocating current teams because it doesn't make sense from a scheduling standpoint to get to 33 or 34 until you get up to maybe 36. But even then, it doesn't break down as easily as what 32 teams does. 32 teams is pretty balanced from a scheduling standpoint. That's why the NHL is trying to get there. I don't know why the NBA doesn't try to get there because there's definitely markets. I think that's why you hear about Pittsburgh every offseason. Seems like someone's trying to bring an NBA team up to Pittsburgh. But Major League Baseball is looking. The commissioner, let me see if I actually have his statements. In September last year, Rob Manfred said that he needed to get situations for stadiums for Tampa and Oakland, kind of pushing it on them. But he wants to expand to 32 teams. And then he had mentioned that he wanted to get Mexico City, Charlotte, or I guess North Carolina, Raleigh, I've heard, depending on who can do what, which kind of seems like a waste because Charlotte just invested a ton of money in a minor league baseball team. And from what I've heard down here, there's no way for them to expand that to fit an actual major league stadium. So it doesn't really make sense that he would have let that project go through. And then the third team that he mentioned was Montreal. Another dumb. It already failed there once. Another dumb city. I know you're trying to break more into the Canadian market. The reason I bring it up today is Russell Wilson has put together an investment team, and he's looking to get Portland looked at for a Major League Baseball team. And so I wanted to get your thoughts, Rick. What do you think of the markets? And it makes sense. They're not just going to add one team. They would add 2. So he really narrowed down the markets compared to what Major League Soccer did, where they had cities bid, and then I think they had like 12 or 13 cities to look at. He named 3 off his head, and then Portland, I guess, put in their bid or at least expressed interest. What did they say? I can get some extra details. They put together their own. They're either going to try to do a relocation or they're going to try to go with expansion, and they're using, I think it's called the Portland Diamond Project. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts, Rick?
Portland would never work. It's already failed there like twice. I mean, they can't even hold a AAA team there. They had the worst attendance when they were a AAA team. The fans didn't come out. The ballpark was cruddy at best. I mean, that's why you're not even seeing them. These AAA teams are relocating, and nobody ever says, let's go back to Portland. Nobody's ever gone back. I mean, you know, you've seen teams move all over the place, but everybody's staying away from there. I see Portland in the fact that Do you need another team out west? Yes, because Astros in Texas have to go west and have to leave the time zone to leave and play. So I understand Portland from the time zone fact. I think Montreal will work this time around because they got screwed over and they lost it. The problem was Major League Baseball was running it at the end, and they didn't care. They truly did not care about that team. It was just there. They were just trying to make a buck or two. I mean, they had it was like run worse than the worst minor league ball team. It was just terrible. And I think Montreal people would come back because they lost it and they realized what they lost. And they play preseason games up there. They sell out the preseason games. Every preseason game that's going up there, they sold it out. So I think that's one. I understand the North Carolina aspect. I went and looked it up. The number one city in AAA attendance is actually Durham. Durham is number one in fans, followed by Lehigh Valley, so you're outside Philadelphia, so the people who don't want to go downtown Philadelphia, which makes a lot of sense. And then your third one is Charlotte. So right there you have two North Carolina teams. So, I mean, would it make sense for one of those? Yes. Would it be good to put one there in North Carolina? Yeah, I think it'll work. I don't know what league you throw them in or how you put them in. Maybe you put them into the NL East, but I think that would be the place right there. So, but I would like Montreal. If I had to pick, it would be Montreal and Charlotte.
Well,
keep on the East Coast.
I would think they would have to add a team in North Carolina because look what happened with the NFL. Charlotte has one of the largest stadiums. They always have huge crowds, and it makes sense. Maybe not Charlotte. Yeah, I mean, you have your pick. You could either go Raleigh, Charlotte, or maybe even Columbia, South Carolina, if you're going to mix it up, and if you're going to keep the Carolina moniker. I don't know if it would work to do they have any other teams named after states in Major League Baseball, or is it all cities? Because like in the NFL, you have what? I don't even know. I think maybe they are the only one named after a state in the NFL too. So you have, like, what are you looking at? You're looking at travel. I don't think in Mexico City works well just for travel. Portland, and again, I don't know. Do they even have enough to support a major league roster? But Carolina makes sense just from travel because I'll say just trying to watch games here, there's no market that covers it. My actual market here in Raleigh is the Nationals or the Orioles, which is a 5-hour drive. No one's going to drive to see it. So you're missing what? The 10th largest state in the United States that has no major league team. They're not going to drive to Atlanta. They're not going to watch Atlanta. It's not even covered down here. So go ahead, Matt.
But looking at expansions, I'm curious to see with the Alliance Football League that the NFL is trying to put together, and with the XFL, where they're looking to place their teams, because right now they both football leagues have to be looking at what cities, what places do we want to align our franchises, because a lot of that success is going to hinge solely on are they going to be able to develop the viewership. So I think that's going to be an interesting place to see where are some of the markets that they decide. Are they going to use some of the places that are pretty traditional staple places, or do they venture out into some of these lower level areas and try to pick up a following?
I think for baseball, you have to have some type of rivalry. So it makes sense to add, if you add a Carolina, they would have to go against Atlanta. And I mean, you could balance the divisions, however. If you add a Portland, you have to put them next to Seattle. You just have to do it. Mexico City, what's going to encourage people from Mexico to go watch the game?
The Rangers.
They
Rangers can fight for the border.
It depends. How close is that even to them? Like, is that driving distance? I really don't know. I know the NFL investigated Mexico City, and then it kind of fizzled out once they did some initial tests there. I think they've had a few games. I don't know if they're still doing that or not. I mean, Montreal, you have the same thing. You'd have to put them next to Toronto and try to have an inter-country thing. That's where I would lean towards them, just because you had a team there before. You have Toronto. you can get some people from the country of Canada to come in and try to do whatever, try to get a rivalry going. Because if you have a rivalry, then people start to care. The Atlanta Braves right now, their rivalries are with who? The Mets? The Phillies? How often in Atlanta do you see a Phillies fan? I mean, it's possible, but it's not like you're living right next to them doing business like you would if you added a team in Charlotte. So that's where I think the commissioner's trying to go with it. And I really don't know how many other cities that we didn't even mention that would be in close proximity to another city that has a major league team where you could get something like that started. I don't know.
Yeah, and you would bring back Montreal not as a National League team. You would bring them back as an American League team, so they had to play Toronto nonstop. So you'd have to play the 4 series against them, too.
Oh, I think they would reshuffle the whole thing and make DH universal. I think that's what you would see happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just what's going to happen. But I figured we'd mention it. Anything else you guys want to add on it before we move on?
Nah.
All right, cool. NHL Finals. Big talk, dude. You have Ovechkin. He is coming up strong. He's unstoppable. And right now, Rick, did I call Capitals in, what did I say, 6 last time? Once I figured out the home and away? Capitals in 6, they get it done in 5. I thought it would be 2-2 right now, and I thought they would have to win. The next game, when is that one? Thursday?
Thursday.
So I thought they would have to win that one in Vegas. Right now, they're playing with house money. If it goes to a Game 7, I don't like their chances. But the way they are playing, they're playing tough, they're playing physical, and what I see from Vegas is they are getting very frustrated on the boards. So they're frustrated, and when that happens, you're going to get sloppy play, and that's kind of what's showing up. When the Caps are getting like 5 shots, their one goal was after like 5 or 6 shot attempts. When you're getting that many rebounds, you're going to win. You're going to score some goals. So I'm surprised how this is going. Fleury is getting no help. I feel bad for him. It's like watching some of those early, or not early, but the downtrending Penguins teams where, we're firing coaches and stuff after the first couple cup runs, and people were hanging Fleury out to dry, and a lot of the fans were saying that we need to get rid of him. That's what it reminds me of. Just watching that, and I think that's why fans were so quick to turn on Murray. But it looks like Vegas just doesn't belong. I don't know if the West is just that far behind these power teams in the East, but it's setting up. You're going to have superpowers. You're going to have Ovechkin and Crosby on top, and you better believe that if the NFL or NHL knows what they're doing, they're going to be marketing the hell out of this if Ovechkin wins. Because now finally, they've been talking about it for how long? You can have the same thing that's happening in the NBA where you have Steph Curry and LeBron James, and you can kind of mix, and I think they mix in Kevin Durant too. So you have Kevin Durant, LeBron James, you have two teams that you know are going to face. Unfortunately for the NHL, they're in the same division. Or whatever, league, I don't know what they're called. But they're on the same side, so they can never face each other in the cup. But you're looking right now, you would have the last 3 cups between them. Crosby and Ovechkin. What do you think, Rick?
I think they got it. I mean, they have the series 3-1. Everybody on Washington's team is playing way above what they should be. Braden Holtby is playing insanely good. Insanely good. It's just crazy to think how good he's playing after how bad he was playing years prior. And this isn't the Capitals team too that, like, when they lose a game, they just self-destruct and they're gone. I mean, these guys aren't self-destructing on each other. It looks like they're actually playing as a team together. Niskanen's doing good, even though he's like 100. Orpik's doing half decent, again, even though he's like 100. Kuznetsov's doing great. I mean, Jay Beagle's doing good. I mean, their 4th line is doing well. I mean, everybody's just playing way above average for these guys. And, I mean, I don't know what to say, but I really think they deserve it. The reason why Las Vegas is losing is because they're not playing good as a team. Their defense is not looking as good, and they're not scoring. So, I mean, that's the reason why they're losing. So,
Matt, what do you got? Did you watch the games?
I've
Sorry,
watched
Rick, I
a little
cut you
bit.
off.
you're good.
I watched a little bit here and there. The thing that the Caps are scoring goals. They're definitely getting, like we talked last week on the show, they're getting pucks on goal, and the defense isn't clearing it out for Vegas like they have been in previous series. So when you give an opportunistic team like Washington that many shots, and I think that they have to realize their time is right now. If they blow this, if somehow they let Vegas beat them, not only does it ruin it sets the table for another expansion team to push to get in and do the exact same thing that Vegas did, because you can cherry pick all the best players. And I think it also Washington has to blow themselves up eventually, because the players are really starting to push to the higher end of their careers. So if they don't get it done, then they're probably going to be looking to just dismantle the team and try to start from scratch.
All right, speaking of starting from scratch, I'm going to mix in the NBA Finals here. I don't even know where to start. Matt, you sent me the thing from J.R. Smith. What do you have on that first? Because that was the dumbest thing I might have ever seen.
It's bizarre. I don't even know what to say. It just, like, I feel like for as much as they're trying to make the whole LeBron James like as the greatest of all time, I have a tough time with the way that he's acting. And I know that, like, it was partially like his teammates and things like that, but I don't know. It just leaves me just shaking my head, because for someone as dominant as LeBron James is to be surrounded by that kind of stuff, I don't get it.
I'll say I was really impressed with LeBron in that game. I thought they had no chance, and he had willed them back by himself to be in the position to win. And he even made a hell of a pass to who was that? It was underneath the hoop, right before whoever missed the free throw. It's slipping my mind right now. But they he kind of went up to the top of the key. He made a move. It was a backdoor cut, and they had to grab him and pull him down. He hits the first free throw, and I'm thinking, okay, this is probably going to go to overtime. But when he missed, and because I didn't think he would hit both, because that's a lot of pressure on the road. You're lucky just to get one. When he hit the first one, I'm like, you can relax. Maybe he'll hit the second one. And it actually worked out in the Cavs' favor, because the rebound went right to J.R. Smith. He kind of made a move to get Durant. Durant's underneath the hoop. He kind of flies by him. And this is all in game one. All he has to do is put up a layup, throw it up, do anything. But instead, he just dribbled out to the three-point line. And that's where I was confused on the whole thing, because LeBron seemed to be pointing at him. Just call timeout. Or do you have to have the ball? I think you might have to have the ball. Why isn't Tyronn Lue calling timeout? Like, anyone could just tell him, call timeout, but no one really told him what to do. I think you saw the image, like, I see it everywhere, where LeBron has both hands out and he's kind of pushing, like pointing to JR, like, what are you doing? That's kind of like, it was the biggest meltdown, and you knew they were going to lose in overtime. And then that carried over to the second game. They get absolutely destroyed. So their only chance is to win tomorrow. You have 9 p.m., or is it 8 p.m.? They're playing in Cleveland. Cleveland fans better show up, and they better...
But why are they acting like it's LeBron and a bunch of junior high kids versus the all-star Golden State team? Like, at the start of the year, Cleveland was just as much a star-studded team, but to try to add to the building of LeBron as the greatest, they're trying to force the narrative, and it's a tired one, because he has pieces around him. It's not just him.
Well, I will say, I was wondering the same thing, but when I was tailgating with Jeff, the guy he's from Southbound Sports Family, he does Spaces or Laces. He pointed out the fact that a lot of the media was hyping it up based on the fact they used to have Dwayne Wade and Derrick Rose on the roster. And a lot of the media, they don't realize that once you're that old, Like, you're not a contributor. So they were looking at what they lost, and so now they're trying to play it off like, oh, they used to have Derrick Rose when we thought they were star-studded. They used to have Dwayne Wade. Not to the fact that these aren't the old. Derrick Rose hasn't played. Like, when was the last time he wasn't injured? So it's not like they were just looking at names. I would say Cleveland, the roster itself right now, they have a chance to win. The play they get from Kevin Love spacing the court. I think it was it game 2? Or it might have been late game 1. I think it was game 1 where they were down and LeBron drove and kicked it out to Kevin Love and he hit a 3 after he had just missed one. And I thought, holy crap, I'm surprised he even took that shot. To have the balls to take the shot on the road, tie the game up and kind of bring them back after he had just bricked a 3 is crazy, but a lot of people aren't talking about Kevin Love because when he was playing before he came here, he was doing all-star numbers on Minnesota, I believe. And
Yes.
not a lot of people
Yes.
watched him. He was a big signing. When he didn't sign with Boston, I know a lot of Celtics fans were really upset that he was going to Cleveland, and they thought it was kind of a similar thing to the LeBron with the Heat. He was putting together his 3 guys. He got Love, and then I forget who the third one he was supposed to get. It never worked out. I don't know if it was Carmelo through one of his deals or whatever, or bringing Bosch or Wade, who he eventually got there. But Kevin Love is considered a big piece. And I will say this, a lot of people don't remember, but when they were talking about that same year Love signed, they thought he was the missing link for the Celtics. Because could you imagine if Love was on the Celtics this year? Now, granted, they did get Gordon Hayward and he was hurt, so you can't really overlook that. But you're looking at a team that was a Game 7 away from being in the finals. Kevin Love could have been that missing piece on one of those iterations of that team. Right now, he's on LeBron's team. He has to make big shots. You can't rely on J.R. Smith. I just don't know what you're going to do. He's made too many boneheaded plays. I've seen him brick too many threes. It reminds me of watching a college game when let's say, who's the guy from Penn State? Tony Carr. He's the only...
Yeah.
He's playing like he was Tony Carr on Penn State last year, where he was the number 1 scorer, and he knew he had to make plays late in the game by himself because they didn't have enough of a support group. But JR, you have LeBron on your team. He's carrying the whole team. I don't understand it. People need to get
He ain't
him.
carrying him with his defense, I'll tell you that much. He's back there just cherry picking,
Well, I will say
waiting for his hair to grow back.
he has to be tired. I don't know what else to say about it because he lost a bunch of weight. Was it 2 years ago?
He should be well rested. He ain't running down the court to play defense now.
They said I saw his minutes. He's played as many minutes in his career as a 17-year-old vet with his playoff minutes because he has so many series go to Game 7. It has to weigh on him, and we're going to see. I don't know if it's going to happen next year. This is why I think he could go to the Sixers or wherever, because it's not going to work out this year. Sorry, Cavs fans. I know we have some listening. It's just not going to work out. They just don't have enough. And if he would will this, it would put him in conversation of like the greatest comebacks of all time in any sport. Because right now, he put 50 points up in Game 1? He had to have 50 points for them to be competitive. They lost by 20 last time? The difference was he only scored 29 in that game, I think. So that's a 20-point difference.
See.
Those are LeBron points. He can't put up 50 every game. You just can't.
You will see what the team's made of in the next game, because if you're starting to see some of the fractures because of the J.R. Smith incident, and to follow that up with the big blowout, they're quitting. They're shutting it down. So they better get it together or it's going to get ugly quick.
Oh, I'm thinking it could get ugly right off the first tip. Because Golden State's starting to get their swagger, and I hate to see it. And I hate to see some of the stuff that was going on with like Tristan Thompson, and there was like some shoving and Draymond Green taunting him. Like that, I understand you're playing at home, whatever, you can get away with things like that, Draymond. But it doesn't make you look classy. Like I would hate to see like a casual fan turning in and seeing that display of him beating his chest and like doing guns and stuff under the hoop, which I'm all for celebrating. But, like, pick your shots, man. When you're blowing a team out, that's kind of just like rubbing it in. If it was a hard-fought game, celebrate, storm the court, rip the thing down. I'm all for talking trash on a guy, but you really didn't do much. You weren't the one hitting record-breaking threes. Like, it was Steph. So it's kind of weird that, like, the third wheel or fourth wheel, whatever he even is on that team, arguably the fourth wheel whenever Klay Thompson's healthy, and his injury, that could be a key turning point. Klay Thompson, I don't know if he's going to be back in tomorrow, but he left that game, and it looked pretty bad. He tried to come back out to the tunnel. I think he was limping around. That could be, but even you're just losing one head of this two-headed monster with Durant and Steph. And LeBron doesn't have that second guy. Is it George Hill? Is that the guy that they got from the Pacers?
Yeah.
He's been playing awesome. He's the one that actually missed the free throw, though. And I felt so bad for him because that was a chance to really put Cleveland on the map. And you can't just go ahead and let that slip away. You have to capitalize at this point. You have to capitalize. So I don't know. I don't think Cleveland is going to be able to go ahead and they might get a win, but it won't be tomorrow night. It will be like a Game 4 letdown. But this could be, what was it last year, 4-1?
Yeah.
I think it was 4-1. We could be looking at a sweep. And I hate to say it for all the LeBron lovers and everything out there. It's just not looking good. But do you guys have anything else to add on the finals? We'll do a sweep on the finals for both sports, NHL, NBA. To be honest, they're both blowouts. Both teams looked overmatched in almost all the games because there was I think the Capitals melted down in that second game, or this very well could have been a sweep. And I could be getting my series mixed up here. But the Capitals looked like they're just head and shoulders above, and it's probably because you're battle-tested for so many years. Vegas is a hodgepodge. You don't have the time to put it together, that chemistry that you need in hockey. That's why is the West just that weak? I don't know.
Maybe it's because Vegas has all those former players on their roster, and the Penguins are tired from winning all those cups. So they finally just got a team that has all those veteran players just wore out.
And that's the thing, too, with Washington. They really haven't played a lot of games. They've been out in the first or second round constantly in the NHL playoffs, so that's nice there. And they have kept, even though they lost a lot of guys, they've kept the majority of their guys, too. So I think that's what's helped them out. And I think the thing with the Cavs is the fact that they keep having like this rotating roster of guys. It's like a new Cavs year, a new lineup, where Golden State, they add like a player every year. They don't add like 3 guys that we're going to trade about 4 guys at the deadline, So,
well, that's the difference.
I think that's the problem. There's no steady core.
Golden State was building young. Like, those guys are all relatively young. You can even count Durant in there. Durant had a few runs with the Thunder, but he's not old by any means. Where compared to what Cleveland's doing, just think back on the guys that Cleveland added. That one year they added Shaq. He was like 50 years old. I know the Boston added him for a year too, but like those are the guys you're bringing in. You're bringing in Derrick Rose after his 4th missed season. You're bringing in Dwayne Wade, who's well past his prime. You're bringing in these guys that just don't fit in. I will give another shout out. Kyle Korver, dude, that guy, he is on these playoff series. He was almost willing them into a couple wins on possessions just because of his defense. I was like, I don't remember him even playing defense. I thought Kyle Korver was more of a stand-up corner 3 guy. But he's definitely became more of an all-around player, and he's really helping out. To be honest, he takes over some of the series on offense too, and gives LeBron a break, which he needs a break. He needs a break, and next year, what's going to happen? They have to get younger if he's going to stay in Cleveland. You can't keep adding these old guys. Even George Hill, I'm not sure exactly how old.
9 years.
He's been in the league 9 years?
Yeah.
So you're having what? He's there for 10 years. He had how many runs with the Pacers? He really doesn't know how to win. You're bringing him in as your veteran support. He's not even that much of a veteran. So I don't know. But let's go around. What's the other thing? We did have one other thing to throw on here at the end. What's that guy from Michigan State, Matt? What was his name? Because I know I'm going to butcher it.
Mumphrey. Let me pull back up here. Oh, what was it?
So a wide receiver out of Michigan State was named
Keith Mumphrey.
Keith Mumphrey. Who was he with? He was with the Texans for a while.
He was with the Texans.
So he got drafted out of Michigan State. He had an alleged sexual assault against him. I believe it was tried and dropped twice. And he just got it tried again for the third time under, what did you say it was, Title IX?
Yeah, I believe through the Title IX laws, he was able to do that. So with the way that it looks, the first time they did it, it went through Title IX, which Mumphrey, as opposed to the way they do it in regular court, he has a chance to face his accuser and have people prosecute her. It was just basically a panel hearing, and based off of the results, they cleared him the first time. So then they go back in, and she appealed the finding. So they retried it again because, unlike criminal cases, you can reappeal it and have it retried a second time. So then it went through. Michigan State reopens the case, goes through all the information, and he gets cleared the second time. So then he goes through, and it seems like he's moving forward with his career. And as it turned out, they reopened it a third time, and with the third time, he still wasn't charged with anything, but because of the repeated nature of everything, the Houston Texans fired him or cut him. And so now he's stuck in no man's land because he has these accusations, but no way of proving whether they were true or false and being able to finally lay him to rest. So he's just kind of stuck in this middle area where no NFL team's going to touch him with the political climate that we're in, and he can't push the issue to get it resolved anywhere.
And that's crazy. And what's even weirder is Michigan State was paying out $50 million to the gymnast assault victims, and they're under extreme scrutiny right now. So I don't know if it's a black eye on them or what, but got to feel bad for a guy. If you got it thrown out twice, he has to keep living it up. I mean, they threw it out for a reason. So I don't know, but there'll definitely be news. So check that out on that. We'll go ahead and with our final thoughts. I had mine for high tempo. I actually forgot to bring it up, probably for good reason. But Coach Beilein has been interviewing with the Detroit Pistons, Michigan's basketball coach. And I think they were bringing him in for a second round with 3 or 4 other guys, which is kind of heartbreaking because I would say he's our best coach across any sports. You could argue that our softball coach is more decorated, Carol Hutchinson. But I would say Coach Beilein, with what he does recruiting-wise, staying clean, it doesn't surprise me that he would think about jumping, because that has to be the worst thing in your daily job, recruiting. Whenever you know a laundry list of teams come out and they're all on this. Like, think about what Leonard Hamilton's doing at Florida State, Matt. He's not listed in any of those documents. So he's going up against how many teams that are on that? I mean, all the Carolina schools were listed. Those are the big dogs in basketball. And I think both our teams, Florida State and Michigan, are both ranked going into next year. So if recruiting's the one thing that's dirty and you think you have the X's and O's, obviously Beilein has the X's and O's. He wins with an under-ranked team, under-talented roster against these big dogs every year. He was just in the national championship game for the second time. Kind of what Brad Stevens did at Butler. So if he jumps, that's probably the reason why. I would think he's just tired of the recruiting and handing with the dirty deals. But whatever, much love to him. hope whatever he does works out best for him, because a lot of respect for John Beilein. But did want to mention it and slipped my mind earlier for a good reason, because I definitely blocked that out. Matt, we'll go with you next. Any final thoughts?
Nope. Just keeping my fingers crossed. Looks like we're still okay here, heading later into the Knowles game. So
what's
just
the
keep
score?
your fingers crossed for them. I just shut it off. They were up 3.
Nice time to get some other championships under your belt. Florida State was a women's college at one time. When did they stop being a women's college? Like the Jameis Winston years?
Yeah, but Michigan can claim all these titles from 1909. 8-3, middle of the 6th.
Oh, so they pretty much got that locked up, because I think softball's only 7?
Yep.
So, all right. That'll be some celebrating for you in a little bit here. Rick, what do you got?
Pirates are going to lose 5-0. They're losing 5-0. Will lose 5-0. So if there's also, we still have day 3 of the Major League Draft tomorrow. On Thursday, we have the Stanley Cup should be over. And if you also want to talk about things that's over, Tim Lincecum, your career's now over for like the 14th time. So you just got released from the Rangers during a rehab. You don't even get to finish your rehab. They are already like, we've seen enough of you. Goodbye.
Wasn't he the pitcher that was more into yoga than weightlifting and stuff?
Correct, yeah.
I think that was him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, almost worked out for him. But, yeah, I think that's it. We'll wrap it up on that. Thanks for listening. Rick, you were wrong. The Capitals will win in 6 games to make sure that my prediction was correct, since you guys all thought Vegas are going to win. They're going to win in Washington. And just like all the broadcasts, they always end showing the Capitol building or wherever they're storming after the game. They're going to win at home just so that you can have that. And it's only a, 3-hour drive from you? You can go down and celebrate.
3.5.
And then next year, Capitals should have most of their guys back, I believe. So it's going to be heated. Every game between the Penguins and the Capitals is going to be highly touted, must-watch TV. Ovechkin versus Crosby. And that's what I'll end the show on. So thanks for listening. Check us out, Southbound Sports on Facebook and Instagram, S-Bound Sports on Twitter. And we'll see you guys next week.